What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Daily Energy News Beat Stand-Up here on this gorgeous Thursday, December 8th, 2022. As always, I am your humble correspondent, Michael Tanner, coming to you from an undisclosed location here in Dallas, Texas, joined by the purveyor of the show and the director and publisher of the world's greatest website, EnergyNewsBeat.com, Stuart Turley. My man, how we doing today?
It's a brutal day out there, dude, but it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It's brutal out there, but the neighborhood's fine, I guess. Markets didn't fare as well today. We're down in pretty much every major indice that we track here between the S&P, NASDAQ, and specifically crude oil. Natural gas actually had a positive day, so some light news there. Stu's got some great stories lined up for us today. We'll talk a little bit about how coal is actually the largest source of electricity generation for 15 states. It makes me chuckle. The other thing that we'll be covering is Duke Energy. I mean, I almost don't believe that they'll go through with this, but apparently they're phasing out new natural gas plants, which is absolutely insane to me. I mean,
it'll be a while, but
it'll be a while. Federal Reserve unveils climate risk proposal for big banks for public comment. Yeah, I'm sure there won't be any lobbying around that bill. I love this. I love the title of this next one, Stu. Hitting the brakes on gas. The real question is, where is all of this production going to go? It's a nice little report by Enverus. We love them, and we appreciate all of the hard work they do. I'm a Enverus subscriber at my day job. I use them pretty much every day. They've got great stuff. And the final one will be around the energy transition and specifically how we need to invest in it, because we do need to invest in the energy transition. The question is how. Stu will lay that out. He'll kick it over to me then to cover a little bit of what happened in the markets today. We're expecting a 50 points basis rise next week, but we will see. Oil prices took a little bit of a tumble after the EIA came in and did a little bit worse of a draw than was expected. And natural gas prices saw a little bit of a rise. We're currently trading about 584 due to some weather models turning and expecting some of this colder Canadian air to push down into the region. We will cover all of that in a bag of chips. But first, guys, I need to tell you about the world's greatest website, EnergyNewsBeat.com. It's where all of the analysis and all of the stories that you hear on the show are available on that website. You can check it out on the link below. I mean, it's the best place for all of your oil and gas news. Please go to our website, www.energynewsbeat.com. But enough of the pleasantries, Stu. I mean, there's a lot of stories here. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with coal. You got to buy some good humor there. And I'm going to correct you here for the first time in many years. We cover energy, not just oil and gas.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
Just thought I'd let you know. Now, isn't this fun? When you take a look at the coal, there were 15 states that actually were the high-end users of coal. Although many states have shifted away from coal, the largest source of energy in the past 20 years, coal still accounts for more than 70% in state generation in 4 states. West Virginia, 91%, Missouri, 75%, Wyoming, 74%, in Kentucky, 71%. I started looking at the cost for consumer energy. Those are some of the lowest states. Just thought I'd add that to you there. So I don't want to, and states total, for example, California imported 30% of its total electrical supply, but they're importing it from coal plants outside of the state. So
what do you mean? They're like transmitting electricity that was generated in other states.
Oh yeah, and it's
coal. Oh, you gotta love those guys over there. You've got to love it.
And that's out of the EIA, and that is on the Energy News Beat. My next one, Michael's a couple different types of stories built in here. The title of it is, in phasing out emissions, Duke Energy looks to lean on natural gas plants. I love me some Duke Energy. They are a fabulous energy company. And they are looking at having a good transition to renewable energy. I really like what they're doing. I like the fact that they are looking to replace fossil fuels with hydrogen in an orderly fashion. The problem is they're running into a bunch of their constituents and they're really upset that they're still going to be using fossil fuels. Hey, Duke Energy is trying to keep the prices down. Here's a couple tidbits in there. We're more focused on the short term right now because we believe there's ample opportunity to change directions, said James McHorn, head of Public Staff's Energy Division. We're going to have a proceeding to every 2 years. So they're going to review it every 2 years, but they are actually trying to design what you and I have talked about, which is not done everywhere, and that's having a good plan. The commission should clarify that the selection of a resource in the carbon plan does not create a presumption of need, necessity, or public convenience. They're going after it for that. Michael, the last statement in here I got really tickled at. There's a balancing act between what the leaders of Duke Energy can do and what their constituents, just like I said, one of their constituents goes, when I hear Duke Energy, this is her talking, Melanie, when I hear Duke Energy is proposing carbon plan using natural gas, using methane, a gas that will heat the environment 80 times more than carbon, it makes me sick to my stomach. Well, Melanie, you're not going to be able to afford hydrogen because it doesn't work yet. We got to get the technology to get there. And if you get rid of it, you take a look at that other article, 70% of our energy is fossil fuels in the US. So let's unplug 70% of everything in the US and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I just fired up a little fire while you were gone, so I'm good.
A fire.
That's how we're gonna have to keep warm when they keep shutting off all this coal. What is it? Burning shoes? Is that what they're doing in Europe? They're burning shoes.
Well, let me bring that up. Tonight, I just released Drew Bonds. He is the president and CEO over there at C3 Solutions. Had him on the podcast, and he just got back from Hungary, out of the EU and Ukraine, or right next to Ukraine. And in our podcast, we talked about the COP27. And in his article here, he's talking about how really bad it is in Europe. And he says, there is hope on the horizon thanks to countless innovations in the works. One example is Archaea Energy, a company that is converting trash into renewable natural gas. That is almost just like Deborah Wald that I had on, that she's already got that technology going on here in the US. Michael, that is what we need to look at instead of throwing fossil fuels out with the bathwater. Look at how we can add new technology.
I mean, I think that's the idea of, the creative destructionism. There will always be something, and technology moves us forward. So no, I'm completely with you. I think, hats off to Duke Energy for doing this. But as we just said, with 70% of base load energy coming off of coal, we'll see.
Oh yeah. Now here's where I'm getting a little bit of wondering on. The Fed is now working on trying to get a proposal for big banks, so that they can now start having mitigating climate risks of big banks with 100 billion or more in assets. I cannot support this. Let's see. One governor, Christopher Walker, dissented. I cannot support this issuance of guidance on climate change. Climate change is real, but I disagree with the premise it poses a serious risk to safety of large banks.
What does the next quote say? The Federal Reserve conducts regular stress tests. We've seen how those stress tests have worked out in the past. No sarcasm. The Federal Reserve has conducted regular stress tests on large banks that impose extremely severe macroeconomic shocks and show that the banks are resilient. So
I couldn't even go forward. Thank you for picking that. I was laughing too hard.
regular stress tests.
Um,
I'm glad they're stressing the system, baby.
yeah, they're stressing me out. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. I just thought that was funny that they're still trying to force all the banks into the climate change stuff. Okay, next one. Hitting the brakes on this one is from our buddies over at Inveris. Love Inveris. Hitting the brakes on gas, as you said, while the Permian is all gas and no brakes except the takeaway constraints, the Haynesville and Marcellus show signs of slowing. Now, a little bit about that, Michael, is around the LNG export area would be the only way the Haynesville slows down. And I think there's a little bit of a lag in there until it starts kicking back in. But do you want to cover some of the rest of this article here? You had some thoughts on this earlier.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the Haynesville and the Marcellus is it's very consolidated. It's just EQT up there. They've taken out, CNX. They've gone out and bought up a lot of acquisitions. So there's, it's great for EQT shareholders. It's great for, in my opinion, that company. I would, we don't give it financial advice on the show, but I would be a buyer and bullish on that stock versus, other peers, but they don't really have a peer. And so really what you're saying is this a gamble that EQT can continually grow, and not just by buying other production, but by really focusing on an extensive drilling plan? And when you look at some of the the statements they've said, they're all, Toby Rice is all out there for American made natural gas. I think it's a great message. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's going to take a lot of capital. And one company, EQT, even if they're completely going to sell out and, not screw balance the budgets, all going to capex, which, would be fun. We'd have, 1,000 rigs running in Appalachia, but they're not going to. It's just not feasible. It's one company. So I think it's different than saying, oh, the Permian's going to rise. Well, yeah, the Permian's going to continue to probably slowly rise the amount of oil because everybody wants to get in on it. There's ample opportunity. It's not just one player out there. So I think it'll be interesting. I think if you saw a second player enter that space and say, hey, Exxon decides to come in and take a big position, or an operator that really wants to make a footprint there, yeah, then maybe you will see production increase. But if you're still relying on one operator, at least in the Marcellus, it ain't going to work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Okay. And then I think we pretty well covered the last one here was investing in just an energy transition, what we need to know. It's a good article. It's a big, heavy article. Lots of good stuff in here. And I think we just need to go ahead and table this one for now because there's just way too much in it. We covered some of the big highlights already with Duke Energy. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you for the finance there.
Yeah, well, I was hoping we just push out our finance as far as we need. If you're watching on YouTube, I wore black for the funeral. I mostly kid, but it was a tough day for the oil markets and the overall markets abound. SPY was down about 1/4 percentage point. NASDAQ tumbled about 1/2 percentage. Everyone's kind of bracing for earnings right now. It sounds like one of the quotes I saw on CNBC today was, when earnings start coming out, you'll start seeing you'll start hearing the quotes from the CEOs that say, hey, sales are down. When you hear Walmart's CEO come out and say we may have to close stores because of crime, that's not necessarily the reason why stocks are down, but it's another needle in the haystack that eventually just collapses what is, this current bull market right now. We're expecting a 50 basis points move next week when the Fed meets. That is smaller than the 75 basis points we've seen the past couple of times, but in my opinion, and what the markets are telling us is, hey, it doesn't matter. there. The probably the only reason it's not a 75 basis points is because they're trying to go for a soft landing. But the fact that they've continually kept it at 75 basis points and are still increasing a half of 50 basis points is a sign that we're probably headed into a recession. So you combine that with some of the earnings fears. I think that's why you see the overall markets the way they are. Moving to crude oil prices, as we record this Wednesday, the night before, it stands about 620. Oil's trading about 72.60 right now, fairly flat. The main driver right now of crude oil is two things. We had the EIA come out, and if we take a look at the draw on commercial, it was only 5.2 million barrel draw. Remember, API drops the day before. So Tuesday at 2:30, the API will come out and say, this is what we expect the EIA crude oil number to be. And they were at 6.4, 6.2. So it's basically we missed by about 1 million, 1.2 million. And when that does, that means there was less crude oil produced and prices naturally suppressed. So that's what you see. If you're looking at a crude oil price chart, you can clearly see at 8:30 or 9:30 central, depending on where you are at. You could see oil prices just kind of took a little tumble and continued to sort of settle. They were trading up in the morning all the way up to above 75 after settling below 74 in the 73s. So it'll be very, it's going to be interesting going forward. And so seeing that coupling with the overall weakness in the economy, we keep having to fight off job applications. These recruiters are all over Stu at Goldman Sachs. It's tough, but we're doing our level-headed best to make sure that he stays here and providing you all that great information. As far as where crude oil might go, I mean, it's going to go as this economy goes. If we dip into a recession and nothing changes macro, I don't think I see how oil prices, return to the levels they were. I think we're realizing probably in real time that a lot of the bullishness was surrounding the fact that, the macro factors that have sort of sorted themselves out right now. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I know I saw the other day multiple banks doubled down on $110 next year, and hey, we might see $110, and that would be great. But I think and don't get me wrong, above 70 is awesome, Stu. I mean, when I got out of when I started working, oil prices were in like the $45 range. We saw negative oil prices just 2 years ago. So to sit here and complain about $72 a barrel, shouldn't be doing that. But relative to where we have been, it's been a very interesting ride. And I think it's taken, a lot of people by surprise, Stu. I don't think a lot of people, if you had asked them 2 months ago where oil prices would be on December 7th, I don't think many people would have said $72.
Not me.
Not me either. I mean, I'm usually a contrarian. So when I hear people saying 150, 200, I tend to squeal a little bit.
No, that's way out there.
But I didn't necessarily call this one. But again, I think, we'll continue to see what happens. I think if the more and more we dip into a recession, the more and more, oil may fall, or we may find a ceiling here. I mean, maybe 70 is the floor from a technical perspective, but I think we're going to need some fundamentals to shift at some point. And the beautiful part is Stu and this show, Energy News Beat, will be on it. So we'll be waiting on you, Stu, to let us know when those fundamentals keep changing. On the natural gas side, I like to save the best news for last. We're actually up about 2 percentage points today. At one point, we were trading down to about $5.40, now up to $5.83 as time stands here, about $6.23 the night before. Really, what's driving this is weather models. I know I pound this into you guys every single day, but a lot of Canadian weather. A Canadian cold front that's actually sitting there right now, is looking to push towards the lower 48 end of this week and into the weekend. So that's part of what we're seeing. I think a lot of the sentiment surrounding today's the day's EIA natural gas storage report range of expectations, we're looking at the draw between 8 and 60 BCF. Last year, we had an injection of about 59 BCF, and the 5-year injection rate is 49. So that'll come about 10:30 Central Time. So be on the lookout for the EIA's natural gas storage injection numbers. So big range of expectations. And again, if we see a light print somewhere in that 15 to 20 range, I mean, you might see, natural gas prices slide little bit. They're going to be much more volatile than oil prices. There are very few. There's a lot of people that trade crude oil, as sort of a retail trader. I've done it before, but I know a lot of people that do it. Natural gas, a little harder to retail trade, a lot more technicalities, a lot of big buyers in there. So if you're out there trading storage injection numbers for natural gas, we wish you luck, and don't blow your account out. I think the only other thing I saw interesting today, Stu, was Chevron. They dropped their 2023 capex budget. Somebody's spending money, and trust me, it's these guys. I thought I'd pick out a couple highlights. U.S. upstream slated to spend $8 billion. Specifically includes more than $4 billion for Permian development and roughly $2 billion for other shale and tight assets. More than 20% of their upstream capex is for its projects in the Gulf of Mexico. Lower carbon capex across all segments totals around $2 billion, including about $500 million to build to lower the carbon intensity of Chevron's traditional operations and about $1 billion to increase renewable fuels production. I wonder what they're trying to signal to everybody.
They're trying to do what Duke's doing.
They best be using
both roads.
Yeah, I got a demo today of in my opinion, what will become the #1 carbon management platform for oil and gas companies. Nice. So it's pretty sweet. So shout out to the guys over at Combo Curve. They're building Combo Carbon. Holy smokes, Stu. It's pretty overwhelming.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm also looking forward to interviewing the CEO. So that'll be a lot of fun.
That will be a lot of fun. That's going to be one I might even tune in for. I don't sit in on those interviews. I usually just listen to them post, but that one I might show up and try to. What do you got to kiss the baby, kiss the hand?
Well, you talked to him before, so I think it'd be nice.
I have. Well, my day job, we use them. I have a job because of that software. So, but we'll get into that at a lower date. International upstream is about $3.5 billion, for a total of about $11.5 billion in capital. Downstream's getting about $1.9 billion, and they've got about 14, or they got about 600 million, related to other, just other projects. I think the thing to point out is the ESG issue. Everybody is moving towards, that's where, what Chevron is doing, and smartly, is using insane oil prices over this past 6 months to invest in carbon and invest heavily in lowering their emissions, so that going forward, they don't have to worry about it. Cause that's the nice part about, you can do a lot of things that you don't really have to go back and do over again that often. So you can invest the money now. You get yourself a 3 to 5 year window where you don't have to worry about it. So it's a smart plan. I do love the fact that they're keeping 20%. So you're looking at about $3.5 billion in the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, if we're talking about growing oil volumes, Stu, that's where it's going to come from. It ain't going to come from the Perm. And these companies are out there. We need the Gulf of Mexico production continue to increase. So I'm excited to see them spend money there. But that's a big budget, Stu. I wouldn't have guessed they'd be spending $11.5 billion on capex, 16 months ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I am also going to be looking in there, because I don't think much of it's going to go to Venezuela.
No, I don't think they even. I mean, there's a whole write-up, and they mention zero about Venezuela. So I think that
I wouldn't put $1 into Venezuela.
Tells you all you need to know.
Right.
What are you looking for today or tomorrow, Stu? What do we got?
Just more of trying to sort of see what's going to really come around on. I mean, everybody's scratching their head right now and trying to figure out what's going to happen between now and next week. traffic jam in Turkey is just something to behold. I mean,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that happens to the refined products market moving forward. But luckily I know a website will cover it all.
no, you bet.
And for me, it's mainly I'm looking for the EIA natural gas storage injection number. We'll cover that on tomorrow's show. Hopefully we get some good news about oil prices. But until then, guys, we will let you get out of here. Get back to work. Start your day if you're listening to us on your commute. Appreciate you guys for checking us out here on the Energy News Beat Daily Stand Up. For Stuart Turley, I'm Michael Tanner. See you tomorrow. Today's episode of the Energy Newsbeat podcast is brought to you by Enverus. The energy industry faces massive challenges every day, and the events over the last 2 years have caused huge disruptions like never before. Companies in the energy industry need actionable intelligence and a single source of truth that brings all the data together. Enverus is the energy specialized technology partner that provides intelligent connections for a global energy ecosystem. Only Enverus has the analytics, people, experience, and industry scope to connect the right data and information in the right way to discover missed opportunities and deliver fast outcomes. Find out more at Enverus.com. That's ENVERUS.com.